Alright, it is time to do UFC on Fox 25, Weidman versus Gastelum predictions. Oops, I deleted my direct link. That's a little silly. Anyways, this is MMA Playground, for those of you not familiar with it. And we're going to be using it for my picks today, just because, honestly, it's pretty easy. You get like little bits of information about how many wins they have, what win methods they have, things you can reference while you're breaking down the fight, and kind of use to underline your points, without having to look up, have like a bunch of Sherdog Fight Finder or Tapology tabs at the top. So we start off with Chris Wade versus Frankie Perez. Also shows my picks before I even say them, so saves me a little bit of time in that regard. Taking Chris Wade in this fight, he's a more physically impressive specimen of the two. He is, I think, the better wrestler. I think he's the better striker even, although I wouldn't consider either of these guys particularly proficient strikers. They're serviceable wrestle boxers, but they're not truthfully top-of-the-bill strikers. The difference here also, you can kind of see in the results. The guys that Chris Wade loses to are like long-term UFC value guys. Hustam Habalov, Islam Makhachev, versus Frankie Perez's losses to guys like Johnny Case. And Mark Diakasi is really good, but a guy who has a lot of work to do in the future before you really start to not see him exposing things within guys who are losing to him. Yeah, I think we kind of saw that, honestly, with the Drakkar Klose fight, which Diakasi recently lost. So there's that. And his only real UFC win is over Sam Stout, who was on his way out. So yeah, Wade by decision. Shane Burgos, Godofredo Pepe, going with Shane Burgos by decision. Better wrestler, much better striker for the record. Pepe is a sneakily good striker in the sense that he'll catch you with random, for lack of a better term, random shit. But he's not a great deal of actual substance to his striking game. The fundamentals are very lacking, very hittable. Burgos is a guy who's actually really impressed. I actually did pick against him both to Thiago Trator and Charles Rosa fights because I didn't really buy his hype off of the regional scene. But he's definitely proving that hype is somewhat justified and has been delivering on a very high level. Very, very high physical guy, very technical guy, very confident, very mentally in the game. Gotta wonder about a guy who was treated for scoliosis as a kid being like a long-term prospect and that not coming in to impact his career in some way. But it hasn't yet, and it doesn't seem like it's going to really be a problem quite yet. Then we have Timothy Johnson versus Junior Albini. Going with Tim Johnson here. Albini is an unproven talent that I don't really feel is quite ready for the UFC. His wins are over guys who are just not particularly great, and his losses are to guys who are pretty unproven. There's one guy I think is 6-0 in there, so he might be something long-term. But yeah, not ready for a guy like Timothy Johnson. And this feels like a big step down from Johnson's last 4 fights against Jared Rosholt, Marcin Tybura, Alexander Volkov, and Daniel Omielanchuk all feel like bigger names than Albini, but maybe this was a late notice replacement fight. I can't remember it being so, but Albini, physically fairly impressive guy, so down the road we might be thinking differently, and maybe this is his breakout performance, but I don't think that he has what it takes to not get controlled and broken down by Tim Johnson in a manner that Tim Johnson has historically been able to do to people. So Tim Johnson by decision. Brian Kelleher versus Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera is a guy who will very much give you the fight you're looking for. We saw that, I think, in the Davey Grant fight particularly as a great example. Even the Brad Pickett fight, even though he won the fight, because I think Pickett, best before date and all. Kelleher definitely is a guy I can't trust, though. I mean, he's a guy who does have 7 losses to not great competition, but he has proven his worth beating Andrei Sukumath and also Yuri Alcantara in his last 2 outings. Very good finisher, likes to put the pace on you, very athletic, very explosive, actually pretty good gas tank for a blitzer. So I got him winning here. I got it by decision because Vera is preternaturally tough, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him smit or TKO Vera because I just think Vera is outmatched kind of everywhere. As much as I really would like to see Vera succeed. He's got a very good story with his daughter's illness and everything. So he's a guy to cheer for, but I don't think he has the physical requirements to really fight at the UFC at a high level. Then we have Jeremy Kennedy versus Kyle Bochniak. I'm going with Kennedy to win a decision here via just kind of grinding him down. Bochniak is a guy who does break down. He's got some really good stuff early in fights, very explosive. But he really didn't sell me that he even beat Enrique Barzola. So I got to go with Kennedy here. As much as I think Kennedy does have a very hard ceiling, I don't think he's athletically superior enough to really take his style and go deep in the UFC. But against a guy like Bochniak and against a guy like Alessandro Ricci, and I guess Ronnie Bezerra was kind of exposed in their fight, he's got what it takes to get this done. Then Chase Sherman versus Damian Grabowski. This is a true outcome, basically. Either Chase Sherman's lack of experience with like takedown artists is going to lead to him getting taken down and probably subbed, or Grabowski's lack of ability to take a punch, it seems right now, as shown by the Derek Lewis and Anthony Hamilton fights, is going to catch up with him, because Sherman is pretty good with his hands. He kind of lets you back into fights, as we saw with the Rashard Coulter fight, and losses to Justin Ledet and Walt Harris don't look quite as bad after both of those guys have really started to prove that they've got some legitimate chops. So, going with Chase Sherman to TKO Grabowski here. He's a better finisher than Anthony Hamilton is, but there is that underlying concern that he hasn't fought a wrestler, and as much as Grabowski is not a dynamic takedown artist by any means, he is a very good grappler if he does get Sherman down. Then we have Alex Oliveira versus Ryan LaFleur, which I'm going with Oliveira in this one. Oliveira is probably the definition of a git. I mean, if you look at his fights against Tim Means, you kind of get it. Never has been two more differing results in fights where you have the same guys fighting each other. That being said, LaFleur likes to clinch. He likes to have the control in the clinch, and it kind of cost him the Demian Maia fight, which is the only other loss. But it's probably going to cost him here. Oliveira is really, he's a physical freak, both in the clinch and out of the clinch. And if LaFleur thinks that I can clinch with him, I can out-technical him there, I can control him there, he's in for a rude awakening. And I feel like so much of LaFleur's game is kind of premeditated on that, or trying to get takedowns to a degree. Like, he's technically a kickboxer, but he's a kickboxer who really uses that as a deception more than anything else, likes to take you down, and Oliveira thrives in that kind of fight, I think. So, Cowboy Oliveira, much as I don't like him, I think he's a bit of a dirty fighter and a bit of a what do you call it, a bad attitude. Not a guy I'd really want to meet, but probably going to win this fight. Rafael Natal versus Eric Anders. Eric Anders has a pretty good upside future. Like, he's very athletic, and also apparently was on the Cleveland Browns at one point, which is a bit weird for a man of his size. But he's up against Rafa Natal. This is so this is a rude way to make your UFC debut. It really is, and I don't think this is going to go well for him. Natal is also a guy I can't trust, much like Alex Oliveira. He's, even within fights, just not the same fighter, but he has so many skill advantages over Anders, and he is still reasonably tough that Anders shouldn't be able to TKO him with ease. So I see him getting the fight to the ground and getting a submission at some point. But like Oliveira, these are two guys who I would not bet money on because of that cannot trust factor. They're just not... I have no faith in either of them. They should, based on style, win these fights, but they probably won't. Lehman Good versus Eliza dos Santos, Zaleski, as I'm going to call him from this point forward. The Capoeira Man. Lehman Good should take this one via TKO. Dos Santos Zaleski is really, really hittable. You kind of saw that in the Keita Nakamura fight, a fight that he won and showed some impressive things in it, but was unable to, in my opinion, really shore up what I think is serious defensive deficiencies, and Lehman Good should take him apart. Lehman Good is a very good striker, very good, well-rounded fighter, just sometimes breaks down against constant pressure, sort of grappling, takedown-based attacks, and that's not Zaleski's game. So, as much as I don't see Lehman Good going, super, super deep into the UFC by any means, this is a fight that stylistically is a good one for him. Jimmy Rivera versus Thomas Almeida. I really like Thomas Almeida. I mean, I think there's a bright future for him. And I think the fact that Cody Garbrandt's gone on to win a title really kind of redeems him off of that loss. Still, he's a hittable guy. I think he's a counterable guy. And I think against a guy like Jimmy Rivera, who's going to remain calm, remain collected, likes to counterpunch a lot, likes to go into deep waters, that's the absolute worst matchup for Almeida. A guy that isn't going to be blown out of the water by him very early. And that's why I got to pick Jimmy Rivera to take the victory here. A guy who, I mean, this seems like a real step down from like a guy who's beaten Pedro Munoz, Uri Alcantara, and Uriah Faber in his last 3 fights. Like, you think that, like, Rivera should be hovering around a title shot, and he's not. So, there you go. But yeah, Jimmy Rivera here, this is a pretty safe pick. Almeida is a very bright guy, bright future, still has some things to learn, though. Patrick Cummings, Gian Villante, another 2 true outcome fight. Either Villante is going to knock out Patrick Cummings, or Patrick Cummings is going to wrestle him to the ground and take a decision. I'm going with the latter because lately I cannot trust Villante. Like, he was disappointing against Latifi and Safarov and Shogun Rua. All fights that, frankly, like, he should have gone 3-0, not 1-2 during. And the Safarov fight, like, fighting a guy on one leg and being unable to just dominate the fight and actually letting Safarov back into the fight a lot. A guy who is not UFC caliber. Man, that is not a good look. I guess that's why I'm going with Cummins. But, yeah, I do not bet money on this fight. Cummins could get knocked out in the first 15 seconds, and it would not in any way surprise me. He is just so hittable, it seems, and when he gets hit really hard. Dennis Bermudez versus Darren Elkins. Bermudez, I think, has the advantage in stand-up. I think he has the advantage in athleticism in a big, big way. I think he's probably even the better wrestler. Elkins is a guy who doesn't go away, as Mirsad Bektic will tell you. But, yeah, I think Bermudez should be able to go through there and get the job done. This is not the level of finishers that have historically finished Dennis Bermudez, your Diego Brandel's, your Chan Sung Jung's, Ricardo Lamas's, Jeremy Stevens's. Elkins is just not on that level. But as the Mirsad Bektic fight proved, Elkins can win a fight that he should not win because not even just based on what we knew before that fight, but during that fight, no one would have. At no point did you get the feeling that Elkins was going to win until he did. So there is that. But I don't see lightning striking twice in this regard. I think that said a lot about Bektic's gas tank more so than Elkins' finishing ability. So yeah, we're gonna go with Dennis Bermudez as a fairly safe pick. Although, yeah, Elkins is pretty much on the best streak of his career with the wins over Rob Whiteford, Chaz Skelly, Pepe, and Mirsad Bektic. So maybe he can continue. Not exactly a line, like, I think I picked against him in 2 of those fights, and he delivered. So there you go. Chris Weidman, Kelvin Gastelum. This is more of a depressing fight than honestly anything else. In the case of Weidman, you have a guy who, former champion, legit elite skills as a wrestler, and a pretty good stand-up game for a guy who didn't really have a stand-up coming into, his, young into his career still, as a wrestler transitioning into a striker to a degree, and did really well. Took him all the way to the title. But lately, 3 straight losses, all by stoppage to Luke Rockhold, Yoel Romero, Gegard Mousasi. Would Gastelum be a step down from those guys? Absolutely. Absolutely. He's a guy who should be fighting 170 when it really comes down to it. Just needs to get his diet and stuff under control. Can keep the weight going. He can do well at 185. He's very fast, very athletic. And I think he catches Weidman just because the way Weidman has been talking, just in general, it doesn't fill me with confidence. It doesn't fill me with hope that he has sorted some things out and that I think mentally he's in a worse place than he was really at any point. So, yeah, I got to go with Gastelum, but I'll be honest, I'm rooting for Weidman in this one because I'm a big fan. I really I've enjoyed his career. He's handled himself with an absolute class pretty much at all corners. and his ability to adapt his style to be something different and even, face some people where they are strongest is really impressive. And I would like to see him at least get to the point where he's at least, a properly ranked fighter who I can rely on to win some fights, if not a champion. And if he loses to Gastelum, that's a big moment. It's a big moment. Anyways, I'm going with Gastelum via third round TKO, though, in that regard. This is a pretty interesting fight card. There's not a lot of fights I feel like utterly confident picking. Like, I'm very confident in Jimmy Rivera. I'm very confident in Dennis Bermudez, despite Elkins proving me wrong a couple times. Really feel good about Lehman Good. Really feel good about Jeremy Kennedy, Brian Kelleher, Timothy Johnson, Shane Burgos, Chris Wade, but really interested to see what happens between Chase Sherman and Damian Grabowski. Very interested in Alex Oliveira versus Ryan LaFleur. Rafael Natal versus Eric Anders. That could be a big coming out party for Anders. You never know. Vellante versus Cummins it's an interesting bit of violence. And Gastelum Weidman's going to tell us a lot about where both of these fighters are really headed. So, really interesting fight card. Hope you all enjoy it, and that's all I got for now. Usual links in the description below. Let me know if you like the MMA Playground format, if that's something, or we should go back to the UFC website format. Always interested to hear what the people want. So that's all I got for now, and enjoy.